Welcome, everyone. It is with great pleasure that I am interviewing the Possibility Dude. My name is Selin Bilgin, and I'm on the team Possibility, and super excited to get to know Trace better. The more I get to know Trace, he's one of those people that I like. The more I get to know him, the more I get to know him, the more I respect you. Respect you, Trace, and so I'm excited to ask you these questions that I know will be helpful to those who are listening to get to know you better and realize their potential as well. Okay, so Trace, welcome to your own interview.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here, especially with you, Celine. You're such a bright light in the world, and I'm excited to see what you have in store for me to answer. And I'm just excited for people also to be here absorbing your energy. I think we're going to create some magic today.
Yes, we are. So with that, I would love to know, you live a life by design today. However, it was not always that way for you. In fact, the complete opposite. Can you share with us a little bit about, how growing up was like for you and really how that shaped who you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. So, how far do you want to go back to almost to the womb, or?
Yeah, anything that you feel like just kind of like a first kind of memory of life and like from there.
That's great. Yeah, so for me, if I think back to growing up and stuff, I grew up in rural Anchorage, Alaska. We were up in the hillside, and I was actually homeschooled my whole life. So I'm not sure if you knew that, Celine, or not. But so yeah, the beginning of my life wasn't really by design, by my own design. It was by, my parents and the environment around me. And then as I grew into my teenage years, I started to realize that you can actually live by design. But for a long time, I was just kind of going along with things, like it was decided what I would be eating and what I would be wearing and the activities I'd be doing each day. And so, it's just kind of like the normal way of starting life and growing up. But that at some point, as we grow up, we kind of have the opportunity to realize that we can design our life. But I didn't realize it immediately. But there was a big turning point in my life when my parents got divorced, and my mom and I moved from Anchorage, Alaska, down to San Diego, California, which is actually where I'm sitting right now. And when that happened, I was 13 years old, and I was thrown into a completely different world. And in a lot of ways, I feel like my life began at that moment because I was thrown completely out of my comfort zone. I went from being homeschooled, being home all the time, not really having a lot of, contact with a lot of people outside of our family, to like, walking around downtown. To me, as a 13-year-old kid, it was this big city and walking around alone and going places. And when I was still in Anchorage, I had actually already sort of started my business unofficially because I loved graphic design and I was starting to learn about web design. And so I had started delving in that. And then when we came here, the way that we actually came here was I had met somebody on AOL who was a jazz producer, and my mom is a singer. And so, like, it was a way for her to get her career kind of started. So we came here with the intent of them working together. And he knew a guy who lived here downtown who was, I look at him as really kind of one of my original mentors. His name is Kevin Miller. Kevin, you might be watching this. I love you, brother. But he had his own web design company essentially. And so this guy that I had met on AOL, which is one of the reasons we moved to San Diego, he introduced me to Kevin Miller, who kind of took over as my mentor and taught me some things about business initially. Like Kevin was a really big Tony Robbins student and Stephen Covey student. And so that was sort of an entry into that whole world of living your life by design. So it's pretty much that point where I've kind of started to have the seeds planted that I don't have to just go along with whatever's coming my way. I can start to control things. So subconsciously, I think the seeds started to be planted there. And from there, we went through a bunch of challenges moving here because we didn't come here with very much money. My mom hadn't worked in the workforce basically since she was a teenager herself. So, we had lots of interesting challenges to encounter. And one of the great things that, about the fact that I was already sort of getting involved in graphic design, website design, is we could have an income source from that. So I really started to realize that I could live a life by design kind of by automatic process of having to live a life by design, because it came a point where I couldn't just follow, routines and stuff anymore, because all that stuff sort of fell apart. And I had to just start to realize, okay, now that we're in certain positions, how do we move forward? How can we actually create things? And law of attraction, law of vibration, that kind of stuff, I had no awareness about that stuff back then. But looking back now, I can see that it was totally working in my favor, because people started to enter into my life. I got clients, I got projects, and through the ups and downs, everything always worked out. And at some point, though, much later in my life and in my career, I really consciously realized that you could live a life by design. And then everything changed, because I could start being more intentional about the things that we're creating, not just responding to situations that were coming, but then starting to create the situations that were coming, right? So I don't know if that answers the question, Selin. That's a little bit of the early days of my past.
Yes, no, I love what you said. It's like a creation where I can relate, where it's just like, oh, life is not happening to us, for us, and we have creative co-control over it.
Yes.
So what are some of the things, that you have created in your life today, before we get into unpacking some of the things of how you got to where you are now?
So life today, I have to say, is pretty awesome. I'm very excited and happy and grateful for it. Tomorrow actually is my 18th wedding anniversary with my lovely wife, Sabrina. We've been married as of tomorrow 18 years. So that's something that we're celebrating this weekend and for this next whole year. So that's kind of an accomplishment, right? A lot of people kind of get married and get divorced and stuff, and we've got our challenges, which we can talk about later. So that's really exciting. We live most of the year in Austria, which is where my wife is from. And so we have a house there. We're in San Diego right now. We really love having our second home here. In fact, I'll show you real quick. This is like the dream that I always had when I came to San Diego as a kid. I always wanted to live downtown, have my own place downtown. And then as I grew older, I developed the desire to have a nice place with a view, and it's modern and all that kind of stuff.
You indeed.
Yeah, we have that now as our second home, so we come here as often as we can. So those are a couple of examples. From a purpose standpoint, like I've really come to understand that, as Neil Donald Walsh says, our life is not about us, it's about everyone else and the way in which we touch them. And so what I do as a coach and a mentor now is I really go and live my life from that perspective, and knowing that when I connect with people like you, Selin, like you, whoever you are watching right now, and I contribute to your life in some way, it just lights me up. That is my reason for living. Like, the material things that we can manifest and that I've manifested, they're fun, they're great. However, as we've heard from probably a lot of different stories, a lot of people manifest these things and they still kind of feel empty and unfulfilled and stuff like that, because they're focused on these things that are trying to, or they're supposed to fill them up, right? And that's not necessarily the case when we manifest these physical things. They're lovely, but if we're not living from our purpose, then is that really, the important thing? And I and lots of other people have found out, what, it's not. So I'm so excited about my life because I'm doing what I love to do. I'm connecting with people. I'm helping them kind of look at who they are, who they think they are, who they think they're not, who they really are, and just kind of be on this journey. And when you go into this journey and you do it from purpose, like I really feel like I'm doing this now, you really get to live your life by design. And it's a great thing on all levels, because you're getting two different types of income, right? You're having the emotional income and you're having the financial income. So it's like kind of like a complete circle, so yeah, what I feel like I manifest on a regular basis is happiness and joy and gratitude, like all of these beautiful emotional and spiritual, I don't even know what to call them. It's like energies, I guess. And when you're in that state, you also are then manifesting, like the homes and the second homes and the trips and the vacations and the time with, doing things that you love to be doing, and all the tangible stuff that you can enjoy in life. So just kind of like just being connected, being always on and connected. That's what I love about my life.
I love that, because it's the embodiment of this physical reality and the spiritual reality, because we are both. And it's not just the you know, the spiritual, and it's not just the financial. You truly combine and embody both of those aspects, right? And you're always like, there's always that next level, there's always that next exploration. But it really is, it's like, because sometimes people take forever to understand that, wait a second, I have all these material things, but why do I feel empty?
Yeah.
And you really said the emotional component. And the cool thing is that it was not always this way for you, right? You was at a point where you were struggling with the income that you were earning, and you just knew that there was more to it. Can you talk about how you first began your business, and what that looked like, and some of the glass ceilings that you had to shatter?
Oh yeah, those glass ceilings, love those glass ceilings. So like I said, I kind of started my business unofficially when I was like 12 years old or so, still living in Alaska. And then I really, when we moved to San Diego when I was 13, it officially started, and I was too young to have a business. So we started in my mom's name and eventually signed it over to my name when I was of legal age. But it's kind of like, we started out, again, we came here, we didn't have very much money, and very quickly literally ran out. And so, there was a time, like one of the lowest points was when we were essentially homeless because we had an apartment, and all of a sudden the property management raised the rent to an amount that we could not afford anymore. So we kind of had to scramble, figure out, okay, where are we going? What are we going to do? So we didn't have money to put a deposit down to move into a new place. Like there's all these kind of, financial aspects that weren't working in the moment. So that for me was a motivation, if you will, to really focus more on my business and get more clients and just find a way to make things work. So I really know, like looking back, that experience really served me. And I actually like how Robert Kiyosaki describes this. I was just watching something that he was delivering yesterday. As an employee, we're kind of trained to just kind of follow and, go through. We have our comfort zone, we have our ceiling, and we just kind of go, and we're a little bit of a zombie in a sense. But as an entrepreneur, there are ups and downs, and like to stay in business and to survive, you have to get used to being uncomfortable. You have to get used to riding the waves. And so I learned that at a very, very young age, 13, 14 years old, going through all these challenges. And so what it did is it built my resilience to be able to continue. It also definitely allowed me to appreciate the law of contrast, how good it feels when things are going good, how not so great it feels when things aren't going so great. And so like at the beginning of my career, and my wife will tell you as well, when we first met, we met in 2002, we got married in 2003. And so like from, 1997 to 2003, that was kind of like, I'll call it the early stages of my career. A lot of ups, a lot of downs, mostly downs. And it's just an experience that I'm so grateful for now, because I know, now that I know all the things that I know about the manifestation process and how the universe really works, and how important self-confidence and belief is, and having a vision and going into your imagination, like there's all these tools that we have that I wasn't consciously aware of back then. It was because of these struggles, if you will, these hardships, these challenges, these low points, that I realized that, we have within us everything that we need, but we need to become consciously aware of that, and we need to believe in that. And that's how we can get and create and move ourselves out of that. So, in my career as a graphic design website developer, I would get projects and there would be too much work, and then I wouldn't get any projects and I wouldn't have enough work to do, right? There's kind of this roller coaster back and forth. And that came down to just an ignorance, a lack of awareness of how to go and get clients, how to manage the projects properly. There's all sorts of things that I learned as I developed in my entrepreneurial career. And it's just about maintaining the vision, because when you're in those low points, like when I was in those low points, I was always a little bit optimistic, but I still got for too long wrapped up in the low point. Like I energetically, felt sad, felt depressed, felt like, okay, where's the money going to come from now to pay the rent? And, and then when you're in a relationship as well, the way your partner is thinking and feeling as well is also typically impacting you. And it definitely was in my case as well. Yeah. So it wasn't just me kind of feeling down and out. It was both of us feeling down and out. And you know how that goes. It's like a snowball effect. It just keeps building and building and building until you stop it. It's like you got to stop it somehow. So that's one of the secrets that I've discovered after many years of trial and error. how to stop that momentum and get the momentum going in the right direction again. But I'm very grateful for all of the experiences, the good and the bad, because they've made me who I am today. They've made my wife who she is today, a relationship, and it's really allowing me to communicate with people on a level that helps them through those things, because there's all sorts of people in the world right now going through all kinds of interesting things, right, with everything that's going on. And what I've really learned is the external environment, we just need to not give that so much of our attention as a human race, as a culture. I don't really care where you are in the world, as like the culture is very universal now. We have these habits and tendencies to focus on what's not working and what's going on out there and all the threats and things that could happen to us. And we just need to get control of that and really start to go inside. And when we go inside, that's when we can start to actually create a new reality that is completely different than the one that seems to be real outside of us right now, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And so is that what you did? Is that what happened to you when you had that moment where you were earning $3,000 a month to that $3,000 a day, right? So were you,
Yes.
what, can you describe what happened there?
Yeah. So what happened there? So at the time, we had just moved to Austria, and we were there like literally just a few months. And I was working for a client, and it was kind of like it was a client contract, but you could call it a part-time job, basically, is what it was. I was earning $3,000 a month. Wasn't really feeling fulfilled and satisfied from what I was doing. Like, it was okay. I was serving them and everything, and it was having a certain level of impact, but it wasn't the impact that I knew that I could have. And then from an income standpoint, also, it wasn't quite what I knew I was capable of. So I had developed the habit after moving to Austria, of studying every single day. And so I was studying Bob Proctor, I was studying Jim Rohn, I was studying, landmark materials, I was studying all kinds of stuff. Primarily Bob Proctor, I was really resonating with his teachings at that point. And I was watching a video one day, and he said something. He was talking about creative imagination and synthetic imagination. And the synthetic imagination, the idea is basically where you take something that already exists and you make it better. That's essentially how you can describe how to use your synthetic imagination. I was aware of a certain type of videos that existed that were being used for marketing, being used for educational purposes. There were doodle whiteboard videos. And I had learned there's a way to create the videos. Like, the first time I ever tried to make one myself, it took like literally 20 days to make like a 20-minute video. It was very intense. But then there was changes in technology that allowed you to do it within a very short period of time. So the light bulb went off in my head that there were these video production companies making these sorts of videos that were charging, what were they charging? They were charging $5,000 per minute, I believe. No, they were charging $10,000 per minute for video production.
Yeah.
And so the light bulb went off in my head. Well, I know how to do this now, and I could offer the same service at a much lower rate. I decided to do it at $3,000 per minute. And I knew that I could make a video in a day. So I just did a test run. It's like, I made a video. So it's like, okay, can I really do this within a day? And I did. And I was like, okay, it's time to start telling people about it. And I told a couple of friends about it, and they told people that they worked with about it. And then very quickly I had my first client where I did a video project like this, where I earned $3,000 in a day instead of $3,000 in a whole month of work. So it really was a shift in perception, like, hey, this is possible. It was a shift in the belief that it was possible, because to go from 3,000 a month to 3,000 a day, it's a pretty big jump. So most people would say, like, oh, you got to be super talented, or you have to be super gifted, or there has to be some lucky streak that you hit to do that, right? And it really wasn't anything special. It's just like, it was the idea that floated into my consciousness. And that's how I did that. I was just open to the idea that it's possible. And then because I was open to the idea that I could improve my results, this idea floated into my consciousness of how to actually do it. So the first thing I did was just open my mind, and I allowed myself to connect through the study that I was doing every day. This is really important. Again, the biggest shift that I've ever done in my life, I think, is I started to study every single day, because that is then expanding my conscious awareness every single day. And when you're expanding your awareness every day, you're going to be aware of ideas that have always been there, but you just weren't aware of them because you weren't actively thinking in that direction. So that's really the big turning point for me, is when I started to study every day. I allowed new ideas to enter into my consciousness until, one time, you just have this satori moment. That's what it's called. It's like this aha moment, as most people call it. It's like, oh, the key is when you have those aha moments, you have to act on them immediately. Like there's this concept of entering into the spirit of something. You have to enter into the spirit of it and do the action immediately before you let your logical mind talk yourself out of it. Like I could have gotten that idea and sat there, be like, well, no, I can't do that. I'm not talented enough, and nobody's going to want to pay that money to me. Like I'm not this big production company. I'm this little guy and sitting in a small place in Austria. Like it's so I could have allowed myself to talk myself out of it, but I didn't. I took action in that moment when I was inspired. And that's what that got the momentum going. So for you listening, I highly encourage you when you get these aha moments, act on them right away, and don't let yourself to go backwards in your way of thinking because it's comfortable.
Yes, that limited thinking is comfortable.
Yeah,
we really admit that, because that's what we're used to as well. So it's almost like when you're talking, I had the visual of an X-ray. It's like an X-ray sees a different frequency than our eyes see, or infrared or something, right? So it's just like almost like adding another pair of glasses of like, okay, now I see this whole other dimension.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it, Silly. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you think of our cell phone technology too, right? There's data flowing in and out of here all day, every day. But we can't see it. It's like,
That's right.
It's now the devices can see it, like this can see it. If I call you right now, Celine, like your device will see it. There's this connection there.
Yep.
There's this whole nother world, if you will, that's there, but we can't see it with our naked, human eyes. But it's there.
Or even like how dogs can hear a certain frequency and we cannot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's, what I see the work that you do. It's like you help people see and hear and sense at a different frequency.
Yes.
So before we gonna dive into that more, because there's a whole other thing to unpack there, but we've both worked in the personal development industry for many years now. Where do you see the difference between the people who study every day and who do that versus who study and who are increasing their income? And right, and because when you are this work works by looking at the results, right? Like the income increasing, the happiness, the joy. Where do you see people kind of fail at it? Not want to say fail, but just get stopped by their results.
I love this question so much because it is my mission to have this stop happening. It's like you're studying, you're doing stuff, like let's have it actually show up in your physical world, right? So there's two things I think that people are doing that are allowing them to not activate all of these beautiful principles that they're studying and learning. Number one is belief in themselves and belief in the principles. You could hear a mentor tell you that something is possible and explain a concept, and you can get it intellectually, but until you believe it on your subconscious level, you're not actually going to be activating what's called brain, heart, and soul coherence. And in the physical world, you're not going to be taking the actions that are in alignment with whatever it is that you want to bring it about. So it's really belief in yourself and belief in the process. You must trust the process. The people that I see that are actually getting the results, and this was true for me for a long time too. Like I was studying for, I don't want to say 2 decades, but probably close to that before I really feel like I got it. And it's like I didn't have the belief in myself. I didn't have necessarily the belief in the processes either. So it's like for me personally, and for the people that you talk to, who do you probably ask the same question if they're consciously aware, it's really the belief in themselves in the process that makes a huge difference. And then it's also inspired action. I know a lot of people who are busy bees from early morning till late at night. They're taking lots of action, but they're still not getting the results that they want because they're taking the action just either to feel like they're doing something, feel like they're being productive. That might be the reason that they're doing so much action. The other reason may be that they're motivated, like they're motivated to make money. They're motivated to pay the rent. They're motivated to get some sort of a short-term goal or side effect. And when you're motivated to do something, you can achieve a certain level of result, but there's going to be that glass ceiling that you talked about. When you're taking action from inspiration instead of motivation, it's pulling you rather than pushing you. So you're literally taking the action from a different vibrational state. We think about vibration, the law of vibration, law of attraction. When we get our mind, our brain, our heart, and our soul aligned and everything's operating and vibrating in harmony, that is when magical things start to happen. I think Bob Proctor calls them marvelous and mysterious things start to happen. So it's really the belief in yourself that you can do anything that you want to. It is the belief in the process, trusting the process, trusting the thing that's your learning, suspending your disbelief, really setting that aside and really trying it on like a pair of shoes and really actually taking the actions from that state of belief and from that state of inspiration. When you go into inspiration and you're in touch with what you're doing and why you're doing it, and you're inspired to do things, not motivated to do things, then things show up in a very different way. So that's what I've experienced for myself. And that's what I see in others as well. They believe in themselves and they're inspired. They're inspired to do the things that they're doing. And when I say the things that they're doing, I'm not just talking about things like having meetings with people, doing the work that you're doing, sending emails, like all this stuff in the physical world. It's having a meditation practice. That's an action as well. It's, connecting with what Dr. Joe Dispenza calls the unknown, or the superconscious or unconscious mind. It's like there's things that we can do inside our own imagination, inside ourselves, not just in the physical world. There's actions external, like we're having this conversation right now. You could call this an external action, right? And there's actions internal, the things that we're doing inside of us. So important to do that from a place of belief and inspiration. When you do that, everything changes.
I love that. And that brings up two questions. One is, how does one build that confidence? They're like, okay, Trace, I get what you're saying, but I don't believe in myself yet. And then the follow-up question is also, and you're so good at this, but just talking about frequency, vibration, how can we start to raise that frequency? So two parts, and I can repeat that second one after.
I love them. I might forget the second one. What was the first one?
It was about how we increase confidence and belief in ourselves.
Yeah, study. My number one rule: study every day, because that's keeping your level of awareness. It's kind of like if you go to the gym and you're doing some weight training, right? Let's say you're doing some training for your biceps, right? Right. It's like you go and you do your training and you build that muscle, but then let's say you stop for a couple of days or a week or whatever, for whatever reason. And what happens is that muscle is going to start to atrophy and go backwards, right? So it's the same thing with our study practice. We will study and we'll raise our level of awareness. However, if we're not doing it repetitively, just like a muscle, it's going to go backwards. It's like we're either moving forward and growing, or we're going back and we're dying. So whether it's our muscular tissue, whether it's our level of awareness. One of the things that Bob Proctor, it took me a long time to understand why he was teaching repetition, but I understand it now. It's because when we learn something, like you're listening to us right now, and you're hearing all kinds of things that we're saying, and these things that we're saying are going into your conscious mind, right? And if you want, you can picture my head and Selin's head as a circle, and then draw a line right down the center of it where our nose is. So up here, we've got our conscious mind, and down here, we've got our subconscious mind. So you're hearing us speak stuff, or you're watching videos on YouTube or whatever you do to study, and ideas are going into your conscious mind, and they can hang out there and you can intellectually get them. But our behavior and our vibration is dictated from our subconscious mind, the second half here. So the only way to get things into our subconscious mind is to kind of open this doorway, this pathway between our conscious and our subconscious. And the only way to really do that, especially if you haven't been in the habit of opening that doorway intentionally, is to study. You study every day, you keep your level of awareness high. That doorway is going to open, and more is going to go in until it permanently becomes a part of your subconscious programming. Some people call it a paradigm. Some people call it programming. Whatever label you want to put on it, I don't care, but it becomes a part of you. It literally becomes a part of your cell structure, because your subconscious mind is connected to every cell in your body. As Bob Proctor likes to say, your mind is not anymore in your fingernail as it is in your brain. Like a lot of people think that the brain is in, or the mind is in the brain. The mind is omnipresent. It's in every cell of your body. It's inside you. It's outside of you. It's everywhere. And you must get whatever it is that you desire, whatever beliefs that you need to be having to manifest whatever you want, into your subconscious. And the best way that I have found to do that is through the repetition of having a daily study routine. And so it's a study routine. So you're basically holding information in your conscious awareness. But as you study, especially as you study the things that we're talking about, like in this conversation right now, in my mentorship program, in my book, Possibility 101, there's all kinds of great stuff in here too. As you're studying, you're not only gathering information, but you're raising your level of emotional vibration because you're starting to get in touch with who you truly are. And it's this beautiful thing of knowledge combined with emotion, knowledge combined with feeling that permanently shifts your vibration when you do it over a period of time. And that just starts to, unleash and activate all the laws of the universe. The most that are talked about, of course, is the law of attraction, law of vibration. But that's essentially my perspective on how to do that.
I love
Did I
it.
answer both questions already, Selin?
Yeah, no, that's so great because it's true where I found this information when I did not have a lot of confidence in myself or belief. And it is literally studying this information, studying the information that you teach is the thing that you're like, oh, this is what's actually true. This is what's true about me. And then you realize that we are capable of literally anything we put our mind and heart to. Right. And so on that note, that's the perfect segue to that second question is raising our frequency. So what does that even mean to raise our frequency? And what are some of your ways to elevate how you feel?
Yeah, so to raise our frequency, so kind of like if we back up for a second, everything in the universe is energy, right? So like if we look at our hands and the physical objects we have, coffee cup, cell phone, it appears to be solid, but if you would look at it under a certain type of microscope, you would see it's just a bunch of molecules and atoms and stuff vibrating. And if you go in deeper into the molecules and atoms and stuff, it's energy, like an energy just is. So when we talk about shifting our vibration, we're talking about modifying the rate or the speed at which these cells, these atoms, this energy that we're made up of is vibrating at. And when we raise our vibration to the level that is in alignment with whatever it is we desire, whether it's financial wealth or a loving relationship or just happiness, like pure happiness, we're literally causing our molecules, our atoms, like this stuff that we're made of, to shift. And because everything in the universe is energy, everything is connected with one another. Like Selin right now, besides the Zoom right now, like we're connected spiritually. Like, we're not just, it's not just when we shake hands or something that we're connected on a physical level. It's like we're connected with everything that exists in the universe, we're connected with right now. So when we raise our vibration, we raise the rate at which our molecules are vibrating at, and our spiritual energy, then we're actually connecting with things that we can't see with our naked eyes. We're connecting with every other part of the universe. And so like Bob Proctor likes to use the acorn analogy, right? If you plant an acorn in the earth, there is energy in that acorn and it's pre-programmed. So an acorn can't decide it wants to be some kind of another seed, like a pumpkin seed. An acorn is an acorn. So when it's planted in the fertile earth, it's attracting energy that's in the earth. Who knows where it's coming from physically, but it's attracting it to it according to a perfect pattern. And according to that perfect pattern, it's going to grow into an oak tree, right? So it's the same thing with a carrot. You plant a carrot seed and it's going to grow into a carrot. Now, these things are fixed in vibrational nature. So an acorn can only grow into an oak tree and a carrot seed can only grow into a carrot. The gift that we have as human beings or spiritual beings having human experiences here on the planet is we can decide what we're going to grow into and what we're going to be. So yes, we're humans, obviously, but the way in which we express ourselves, we can consciously decide. So the way to decide if you're going to grow into an oak tree or a carrot or whatever it is you want to be as a human being on this planet, you make that conscious decision in your mind consciously. You embed it into your subconscious mind through study and through different things like meditation practice. And that is then creating the programming, just like the acorn is programmed to become an oak tree. It's making you be programmed to become whatever you're going to be. So let's say you want to be an oak tree, well, then you'll become the oak tree, figuratively speaking, right? So it's important to just decide what you want and then do whatever you need to do with your study routine, with meditation. There's all kinds of tools that we can use to literally become that vibration. And when you become that vibration, that is what will show up in your life. It's the law. So vibration, it really just is talking about um, changing literally everything about ourselves, intellectually,
Mhm.
emotionally, spiritually, um, to the point where it's in alignment with what our desire is. So, there's parts of our personality. Dr. Joe Dispenza talks a lot about our personalities. He says that, people try to change their physical reality or their personal reality without first changing their personality. So I'm sure whoever you are right now, your personality is already lovely, but there's certain parts of your personality, whether it's a procrastinator or whether it's not believing, not having the confidence, like these little, pieces of us that all we got to do is shift those little parts. Like, the majority of us is great, but we just got to shift these little things that aren't in harmony with what we want. We shift those vibrationally, and then our entire universe changes, right? So
I love that, and it's so true. And I also think that some of those aspects of us, like let's say procrastination or doubt, is not even our personality, but it's been almost like programming in a way. It's like, who do you think you are? Or
yeah,
like we only procrastinate if we're just not like in the spirit of what we're trying to achieve.
yes.
And so you have a number of practices and anchors, as you like to call them, for really, staying in the spirit, attracting, raising the frequency, such as a vision board. What other practices do you recommend for people to start to get into that vibration?
I love this question. Anchors are so powerful. So first, let me explain, I guess, what an anchor is. An anchor is basically something that instantly triggers a thought and an emotion. So as an example, you might look at a picture of your dog and you just feel instant love and like unconditional love and just so good, right? So that picture of your dog or your cat or your horse or whatever animal you love,
Or
that
plants?
triggers an instant emotional response. What was that?
Is it or my plants?
Or your plants, right? It's an instant emotional response. So if you create a vision board, right, that has all kinds of beautiful things on it that are in harmony with what you have, what you are creating, who you want to be. And when you look at that, it's instantly triggering the thoughts and the feelings inside your body that are in harmony with whatever that is. So it could be a song, an anchor could be a song. Bob Proctor is real big on goal cards, and I didn't understand that for like so many years. Like, what's a goal card? Really, you're gonna write an idea on a card and carry it with you, and that's gonna make a difference? Heck yeah, it makes a difference. I get it now. Because if you have that goal card in your pocket, you don't even have to look at the thing. You reach down in your pocket to get your keys or whatever, and you touch it, and it's like boom, it shoots straight up to your mind and it activates what I call brain, heart, and soul coherence. And it's doing that on a consistent basis throughout the day that actually has you vibrating consistently throughout the day at the rate of vibration that you need to be operating at. So anyway, that's what an anchor is. And an anchor could be anything. You can make an anchor out of anything that you want. Like the typical tools that I describe here in my book. I'll give you the official trace approved list of anchors.
Love it.
If I can just find it here. Where's my list?
And if anyone is curious, Trace's book can be found on Amazon or possibility101.com. He has exercises after you read the chapter to really ingrain and embed the information that you learn. So I highly recommend getting a copy.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah, possibility101.com for the free version or Amazon for the paid physical copy, which you're looking at right now. So goal cards, right? You write your goal on a card. I'm so happy and grateful now that I am living a happy, purpose-filled life. In my case, I have a beautiful home in Austria, a beautiful home in San Diego, California that I love. My family is happy and healthy. We are wealthy. We are contributing to the lives of many people, millions of people around the world. And it's so great to be alive. That's kind of long, but that's an example of a gold card, right? You can also meditate. Like if you have a favorite meditation that you like to do, there's one that I'm guiding through people in my mentorship program right now. It's based upon Neville Goddard's teachings of the power of assumption, and it's a meditation where you assume your goal. You're literally like you're closing your eyes, you're meditating, you're visualizing your goal, you're living from your goal in your imagination Like that's a way to go into that anchored state. And after you do that a few times, let's say you do it steadily for 2 weeks, just hearing the beginning of the meditation music, that will instantly trigger, right? So again, that's the power of repetition with all these anchors. Using them regularly, you go from having to go, through like a long drawn out routine to get into a certain state. You can go there instantly. Um, the guidance of a mentor or coach, someone like me, I am also going to be anchoring you into really living from your goal, right? Affirmations, an affirmation, you look at it, you glance at it, you speak it out loud, or you listen to it. It's also an anchor triggering the vibrational state that you want to be in. Vision boards we talked about already, just looking at things, physical exercise, you can actually condition yourself. One of our members was just talking about this last week. She found herself feeling a certain way, and she went to the supermarket. She was going to buy some ice cream, and she was standing in front of the freezer about to pick the ice cream, and she's like, you know what, this isn't in harmony with the anchor that I want to create in my life for getting past this emotional state. I'm going to go and exercise instead. So she walked out of that supermarket and she went and exercised. And by doing this consistently over a certain period of time, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, a lot of people say it takes about a month to create a new habit. That becomes a new anchor for her, for you. It's like you can start to just love the way that you feel during exercise, after exercise, especially if you're pairing it with visualization. You're on the screen of your mind and your imagination, you're imagining your goal already being achieved. It's like that can be very powerful. So there's all sorts of tools that we can use as anchors. Music is another one that I love. And we got to be careful about anchors and how we're allowing them to impact our lives, because if I think back on music in my life, there's certain songs that trigger bad memories, like stuff that, is trauma related, and there's certain songs that really lift me up. So you want to make sure that you are listening to the stuff that lifts you up. And anything that you might have a negative association to, you can reprogram that. So you can just listen to it while you're doing something new and positive and do that over a period of time. Then you can start to have a different association with that song. But we're very interesting. We're very interesting human beings. We can reprogram ourselves to go the way we want or to go the opposite of the way we want. And when we are consciously aware of that, then we can start to implement the anchors that are really empowering.
So that was incredible. And I would love to know, how can people work with you? What do you do? How do you help people? And how can people work with you?
All right, so I am the Possibility Dude, the one and only. You can download a copy of my book, Possibility 101, for free on possibility101.com, or you can go and find it on Amazon. That's a great way to kind of get into my world and into my head and into my heart. And it's a fun book. There's a lot of great information in here, and it's illustrated for those of you who like
it's
pictures.
Really nicely designed. Yeah.
So I would definitely encourage you to go and check that out. I also have a group on Facebook called the Possibility Playhouse. You can just type that in the search bar, and depending upon where this interview is posted, maybe we can put a link to go there too. But I do free workshops on a regular basis in there, always posting content. Selin is hanging out with us in there as well, which I'm so grateful for. And it really is kind of like a family in there that we're building, and it's a fun place to be. So you can come hang out with us there and learn. And again, we've been talking about daily study, right? It's a place that you can go. It's like there's so many resources that we have. You can go there to get some stuff to study each day if you want. I also have a mentorship program. It's called Possibility in Action: Thinking, Feeling, and Being into Results. If you're interested in learning more about that, seeing if it's a right fit for you. The one thing I'll say about it is it's a good fit for you if you know that you're a powerful being, yet you haven't fully embraced how to bring that power truly out of you, or even better said, have it flow into and through you. So if you're interested in that, you can send myself a message, or Selin, or any one of our team members, and we can tell you more information about that. I do from time to time also what's called possibility sessions, where we can hop on like a 30-minute, 45-minute call and talk about who you are, what your dreams are, that sort of stuff. So that's another way that we can connect and see how you can be going in the direction of your dreams and living the life that you've imagined, or that you're just now beginning to imagine, now that you're increasing your level of awareness. Yeah, those are the best ways, I think, to do that. So possibility101.com, as well as the Possibility Playhouse on Facebook, or find us somehow, some way on social media and send us a message and say you want to set up a call, and we'll do that.
Absolutely. And again, this information is life-changing. It is every time I feel like anyone learns the information that you teach, we all think, why was this not taught in schools? Why was this not, and so it's just like we're creating this ripple effect of empowered human beings who, like, this information is like, I mean, there's no other way to describe it. It's life changing, and
Yeah,
so
I agree, Celine. It's in this last week in our mentorship session with our group, everybody, like I asked everybody each week to share their wins, right? And everybody's wins this week, it was about stuff that ways in which they had grown and the impact on their community, their families, their friends, their work colleagues, and even in some cases like the entire world. It's
yeah,
very clear that it's this domino effect that is just so beautiful. And like this information applies to everybody everywhere. Like there's it's it's you can call it a philosophy, you can call it a way of living, you can call it a level of awareness, but no matter what label you want to put on it, it really just is about embracing who you are and showing up in the world the way you want to show up. And when you do that, that applies to every area of your life, career, and business that you want it to apply to. You literally get to design what this information does for you. So thanks for the reminder about that, Celine. It's very exciting. And yeah,
totally.
all the little fingers that it goes out into the world and does.
Totally, in every area, exactly. So we will link all of those links and sites mentioned below. And Trace, thank you so much for sharing your gifts in the world. And those of you who feel called, feel pulled, even just to learn more, even just to explore that conversation, please do reach out. And you're in the right place to learn and grow and be more of yourself. So thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next time.
Thank you, Celine. Bye,
Thanks.
everybody. Talk
Bye.
soon.